Oh, blow the man down, bullies, blow the man down.
To me way, blow the man down.
Blow the man down, bullies, blow him away.
Give me some time to blow the man down. We went over the bar on the 13th of May. Way, blow the man down.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today, Naval Action players get to experience a new, long-awaited patch. So for the last several months, the developers at Game Labs have been working to prepare Naval Action for its free-to-play expansion, which is set to come out sometime in the distant future. On August 19th, Game Labs released a roadmap for the next series of patches, with free-to-play being the end goal. Now, the patches that we've actually received since the roadmap was released don't really follow the roadmap at all. We've had a series of patches which have affected raking, ship turning, and maneuvering in general, with still no sight of the first item on the roadmap itself, which is the Arsenal update. As some of you may know, over the last year, ships have continued to get faster and faster through a series of patches which affected wood statistics and speed. It got to a point where, before today, you could craft a second rate and make it go 16 knots in battle, with smaller ships like 6th and 7th rates approaching speeds of up to 20 knots. The ability to get a line ship to sail at those speeds meant that frigates held an awkward place in a player's navy. Why use a frigate when you could get a third rate to be just as fast? Which leads us to today. The developers have released a patch entitled Speed Update and New Week-Long Event Massive Changes to Counter Speed Inflation. So with this video, I'd love to dive into this update and go through what the changes are and what I think this will mean for Naval Action moving forward. I'll leave a link to the patch notes in the video description below. Alright, so right away at the beginning of their announcement, Game Labs says basically the same thing that I just said. Rated ships of the line will no longer be faster than the average frigate, and frigates will no longer sail 22 knots. So the way that they accomplish this is by reducing the speed on all ships across the board. You can see here that each rate has its own speed classification, where large ships like first rates will have a base speed of 8 to 8.5 knots, and 5th through 7th rates will have a speed of 12 to 13 knots. Not only did they change the base speed of each ship, but they also reduced the bonuses given by all speed knowledge books and speed upgrades. Also, specific wood types were affected, so teak and oak have lost all speed bonuses, softwoods like Bermuda had their bonuses lowered, and heavy wood speed penalties were reduced. That last part of the statement is what's interesting to me. Heavy wood speed penalties were reduced. So not only will lighter ships be slower, but heavier ships will not be slowed down as much. Let's take a look at the statistics for an Ingermanland using the Netlify app designed by Felix Victor. On the left, we have a Bermuda cedar ship, the middle is a teak white oak ship, and the right one is a live oak white oak ship. Think of them as changing from light and fast to slow and thick. That change was much more apparent before today. So you can see the super light Bermuda ship on the left is at 11.6 knots with 11,000 HP and 88 thickness. Basically a ship built of paper mache. Over on the right, we have a super heavy ship. You gain 32% HP and 23% thickness for a loss of 9% speed. Okay, so there's still a difference there. 1 knot in speed could make the difference in a battle, but let's look at a comparison between a medium build and a heavy build. So now we have the teak white oak ship on the left and the live oak white oak ship on the right. From left to right, you only lose 3% of your speed while gaining 10% HP and 3% armor. Based on this analysis, this patch will make the super fast ships slower than they used to be, and it will effectively cut out the middleman or the medium build in a lot of instances. So you're still going to see teak white oak or maybe even teak ships out there in some scenarios, but as you can see here, the trade-off isn't that big. Am I willing to lose 0.3 knots of speed in order to gain 10% more armor? Yeah, I think I would personally go for that and use the heavier build. Moving on, Game Labs put a little note here that says they finalized the turning updates for all vessels. So basically your ships will turn differently than they did before, and it feels much more fluid in combat. Manual sailing your ship is now even more important than ever. So just a light note on that change, but the developers have made several updates on this over the past few weeks, which I will also link in the description below. We've got some other changes that are listed here at the end of the announcement, sort of tacked on there as if they were an afterthought, but in reality, these could have far-reaching consequences. Good or bad, it will depend on what happens over the next week while people experiment. These changes are related to Conquest Flags and reclassifying frigates. The Conquest Flag is needed in order to wage war on an enemy port, and prior to today, you could only get them by attacking hostile home defense fleets. So these are massive endgame AI fleets that are super fast and hit hard. There are 13 ships in each fleet, and there is a percentage chance that you could loot one of these flags off of them. The issue was that the drop rate was very inconsistent. I've personally been in HDFs where we get 4 or 5 flags in one battle, and then the next day, we do 3 HDF fleets in one sitting and get 0 flags. This makes it sort of hard to coordinate war efforts when your ability to wage war is not consistent, and it also makes people feel like they're wasting time when they don't get what they are looking for after playing for 3 hours. So in response to this, the developers increased the drop rate of these Conquest Flags, and they also gave us the ability to purchase these flags in the Admiralty store for 10,000 doubloons each. This change is going to make it so that people have options if they want to wage war. HDF fleets will become more important and increase the reward in defeating them, and if you're unlucky or have some other reason you can't get a flag, now you can buy one. This could be beneficial for smaller clans or communities that don't have consistent numbers to do HDFs all the time. Now I personally think that setting the flag at 10,000 doubloons is a little low. It should be closer to 25 or 50,000. Enough to where it's still easier to get them from HDFs, but if not, several people could pool their resources together to buy one for their clan. Having the bar set so low means that people can buy these flags for chump change and set many port battles in rapid succession. So maybe we will see some tweaks to this feature after the player base has had some time to experiment. Game Labs also changed the rating on a few special ships. That's right, they listened to the community, reclassified the Constitution and USS United States as 4th rates, and the Indefatigable as a 5th rate. These ships used to be classified this way before the game was released in 2019, and everyone was shocked when they reclassified them as 3rd rates and 4th rates, respectively. The Connie was too weak to take on other 3rd rates, but not quite fast enough to catch the fastest frigates, and the Indefatigable had the same issue. Now, these ships will renew their position as being 4th rates and 5th rates, which allows them to compete more effectively and be more fun to sail. So that is it for the major game changes from this update. In an effort to get more people interested, Game Labs also gave us a new event for the next week that will allow us to purchase 5 new upgrades from the Admiralty store. This is similar to the St. Kitts upgrades that were released last month. Basically, by defeating enemies in the open world, you have a chance to loot these special upgrades off their sunken hulks. You also have a chance to collect broad pennants, which can be exchanged for the upgrades. These new upgrades are called Martiniques. So we have the ballast, stern, and bow notes, which affect your turn rate and speed. Then we have the carriages note, which gives you more HP and better penetration, and the Martinique drill sergeant, which gives you a boarding buff. I think these limited time events are a fun, great way to keep people interested in the game, a great way to sponsor some activity which Naval Action desperately needs. Overall, my reaction to this patch is one of hope. People in the community have been a little put off by the last series of patches this year, so the fact that the devs have listened to the community and made adjustments is very promising. I think that with the totality of these circumstances, we will see the rebirth of the frigates in Naval Action. When the Redoubtable DLC was released, that marked a change in the game. The Redoubtable and its sister ship the Implacable completely dominated the seas as 3rd rates, and surpassed the abilities of everyone who was using frigates. Again, why would people choose to sail a frigate when they could make a rated ship go just as fast and have more firepower? This sparked the rise of the rated ship meta in the game, and the frigates never fully recovered. It wasn't very historically accurate. Rated ships had a very specific place in history as being line of battleships and admirals' floating palaces, while frigates emerged as being the workhorse. Maybe only the third rate could be said as being more universal, but it still wasn't what we saw represented in naval action. After this patch, we're going to see more people in frigates in the open world hunting each other, and the line ships will be relegated to port battles and heavy sea battles where they belong. I hope that this will level the playing field somewhat and make the costs of PvPing less for beginning players, as they won't need to save up extraordinary amounts of wood to build a second rate for PvP. Now, people can pump out 2 or 3 PvP frigates for the same amount it would cost to build one PvP second rate in the past. Those are my thoughts on this recent update, but what do you, the viewer, think? Do you like this update? Do you hate it? Do you think this has the potential to bring populations back to naval action? Please post your answers in the comments below. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date when I post more videos in the future. Thanks for watching.